Have you ever longed to know what a lingam massage is? And what are the benefits for you as a woman of this time-honored tantric practice? Hi, my name is Annette Bolsch, and my channel is Wise Women Sexuality, where I support women getting more out of the sex that's possible for them, especially older women like me. So you may have heard of a tantric practice called the lingam massage. You may have even seen that amazing episode on Sex and the City where Samantha takes her boyfriend there to have an experience. I think it's Samantha, could be one of the others. It's a while ago since I've seen it. And it's an opportunity for a man to actually really learn to experience himself, to actually step out of that performer and goal orientation mode that is so normal for so many men. It's how they've been conditioned to be. It's really allowing him to kind of experience himself in a whole new way. Some of the expressions that men have said after experiencing this massage is like, it allowed them to join the dots of how sex and intimacy and connection all came together. Another said it allowed him to experience his authentic power beyond the mind. Another one invited him into this place where he could really love and honor his woman from a whole new place. Another said it allowed him to open his heart fully to his partner and really receive her love. And still another said that it allowed him to clear decades of sexual shame and guilt around actually even having a desire to be sexual. It's this guilt and shame that so many men carry. And this is a beautiful way of allowing him and supporting him to clear that so that he can be more present and more available for you as a lover. Men carry so much conditioning around how they should be in sex, even more than women, or as much as women, certainly. And they really drop into that performer role and be there for the woman, but not really know what he's capable of, not really even be in his body. Because when a man's really in his body, a woman can really feel it. It's like that's where the juice is, that really invites her to connect with him in a whole other way. And so this is what's possible with a lingam massage. And what it looks like is this. So you let your man know that he is going to have the opportunity to just receive. There's nothing for him to do, which can be a challenge in itself for a lot of men. All he needs to do is to lie back and have you sit between his legs facing him. So you can sit your butt on a pillow, and you can either have your legs crossed in front of you and his legs over your hips, or you can have your legs out front of you, whatever feels most comfortable. And what this does is that it sits his lingam or his cock or his penis. The lingam is the tantric name for a cock, and if you're into poeticness, this is known as the wand of light or the wand of consciousness. So it can be a really beautiful way for a man to think about his cock. And what this position does is it brings his cock right up front. And it's actually an incredibly vulnerable position for a man to be in. So be prepared to kind of be gentle with him and really be present in your body as you start to come into this practice. Know what you're feeling, breathe into your heart, connect to this part of you. And you can also connect down into your yoni as well, if that feels good. But mostly it's about being present in your own body. And then giving your hands a rub together and placing one hand over his genitals and the other hand over his heart, just looking into his eyes for a moment and just really letting him know that you're there for him. You're really going to be supporting him to go deeply into himself with no expectations. The only expectation is that he will stay connected with himself and not start trying to connect with you. So if any time during this practice, he actually starts wanting to stroke your legs or stroke any part of you, just really gently invite him to keep his hands to himself. And if he keeps going there, just kind of, be a bit schoolmistressy and say, no, it's not about that. Because what he's actually doing when he's touching you is he's actually reaching outside of himself. So what you're wanting is for him to go deeply inside of himself to connect with this part of him. So if he's not really dropping into his body, he's not going to get it. The other thing that's important for you to do for him or with him is to invite him to breathe more deeply. Breathing in through his nose and out through his mouth. Just long, slow breaths. And that helps him to feel, because his pleasure is an energy in the body that's moving. When you're feeling it, it's moving. And so when you're breathing more, your breath is moving in your body. So moving your breath and moving your energy and feeling more pleasure, they all go together. So once you've given that connection and you have your hands on the driving column, then you grab some body-friendly oil or lube and just massage the whole area. So including over his pubic area, his inner thighs, the area between his testicles and his anus, his perineum can be really delicious, particularly gently stroking with 2 thumbs can be really nice. And you can also include his testicles by making a circle around the sac, and you have the balls, the skin smooth over the balls, or his jewels, as in tantric language. And you just gently stroke your finger along. That can really feel exquisite. But mostly it's about having your hand on his lingam and having plenty of lube, really much more than what you think, because you don't want him sore or to get irritated, because you're going to be there for allowing maybe 20 to 30 minutes. And you can build up. You can start with 10, build up with 20 or 30. But so you need plenty of lube so he doesn't get irritated. And you're stroking his lingam up and down. You can focus on the base, you can focus on the tip, you can go from base to tip, you can go round in circles, you can have one hand on the base and the other hand on the top, either with fingers or with the palm of your hand. But really, you don't need to get too fancy around the strokes, because if you know 2, you know 1 more than him. And so just noticing what he's feeling, allowing him to be just how he is, making sounds if he wants to do that, but remembering to breathe, and just inviting him to experience himself, receiving and feeling. And every now and again, you can place one hand up on his heart and keep the other moving on his lingam. Or you can take one hand down either side and then come back into the center. Or you can rub sticks like a fire together, going up and down, just playing with it. But every now and again, going back to the stroke that's more familiar to him, just an up and down stroke. And what that will do is it will invite a more intense energy or amount of pleasure in his lingam. You might find his lingam gets harder and harder. And so when it feels like it is building up and it's becoming quite intense, just pause, don't take your hand off, but pause your stroking and just invite your man to breathe. And imagine that he's breathing that pleasure from his lingam up through his body, up to his heart. And as he exhales, breathing that pleasure, allowing it to spread through his body. So it's breathing in from his lingam up to his heart and out through his body. And he can make a sound if he's free enough to do that as he exhales. It might take a few practices for him to do that. And you'll know that it's really working when you feel his erection soften a little, because it means that he's actually been able to transfer the energy or the pleasure from his lingam and bring it up through his body. If you find that that's not actually happening, just invite him to take a few more deeper breaths and just invite him to really relax with it. And he can imagine his pleasure as a light, a color, if that kind of helps. Or sometimes a man can have a bit of a psychic resistance to letting go of the hardness of his erection. So just encourage him that it's going to be fine. He's not actually losing that pleasure. He's just moving it through his whole body. So eventually, if you do this a few times, his whole body is going to feel like a cock. So that could be some good inspiration for him to stay with it and to really trust that it's okay to let go. And this helps him to learn that his pleasure is actually separate to his erection. He can have full body pleasure. He can have full body tingling heat of orgasm without ejaculating, getting him to know that this is possible. It's not a goal in the beginning. It's definitely something that he may experience, and just starting to give him a sense of what else might be possible in regards to his pleasure if he can unhook it from his agenda, from his goal orientation, and even from his ejaculation. But if your man is pretty attached to his way of being, don't start talking about that too early. Let him discover it for himself. And you just really be there, just be fully present with him, keeping your eyes on him, loving him as you're inviting him to feel into his body. Not just because it's a very enjoyable experience to feel a man in his vulnerability this way. It's also about knowing that the more he connects with this, the more he can bring this part of himself into lovemaking with you. So that's the joys of the lingam massage. I invite you to share it with your man sometime soon. And if you liked this video, please click on the like and hit the subscribe button. And I look forward to seeing you another time soon.